doomed to die for this act of desecration.
Hammer released The Mummy in 1959. Though it did not make as much money as The Curse of Frankenstein or The Horror of Dracula, it did make money, almost ensuring a sequel. Before this could happen, tensions were rising between Michael Carreras and his father James. Michael saw Gothic horror as only a passing fad and was not a fan of it. While he attempted to steer the studio into a different direction, his father increased his workload. In 1959, James tasked him with producing 5 of the 8 films made that year, and then 9 of the next 13 made in 1960 and 1961. To add insult to injury, James also unexpectedly nixed a project about the Spanish Inquisition, which Michael had already greenlit. Frustrated, he stepped down to make his own company, Capricorn Productions. Michael continued to freelance for Hammer, though, and wrote a script for another Mummy movie, the only horror franchise he felt good about. As a scriptwriter, he decided to make a play on Anthony Hines' nom de plume, John Elder. He called himself Henry Younger, and later stated that Tony did not find it amusing. The script was originally offered to Universal, who refused it, but Hammer made it with British Lion Columbia as distributors. And so in 1964, Hammer released The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb.
Egypt, 1900. Archaeologists John Bray and Sir Giles Dalrymple uncover the tomb of Prince Ra, the rebellious son of Pharaoh Ramses VIII. John's fiancée, Annette Dubois, is also a part of the expedition. The dig's sponsor, Alexander King, arrives at the excavation site and announces that he intends to ship the mummy to England to stage a sensational public exhibition. He hires John to assist. On the voyage back to England, a knife-wielding man attacks Sir Giles on deck and threatens Annette as well. But another passenger, the wealthy and cultured Adam Beauchamp, intervenes and throws the attacker overboard. Adam becomes friendly with the expedition members and especially ingratiates himself to Annette with his charm. He also shows an unusual interest in Egyptian mythology. After the ship arrives in England, Alexander King prepares a theatrical exhibition of the mummy and the tomb treasures in London.
Annette tells Adam the story of how Prince Ra was exiled by his brother after seeking immortality and forbidden knowledge. He ruled a tribe in exile and threatened to return with supernatural power when his brother sent assassins to kill him and cut off Ra's hand as proof of death.
At the exhibition hall, the archaeologists open the casket and finds that the mummy looks well preserved. Annette shows Adam a medallion that her father gave her, not knowing that it once belonged to Prince Ra. John and Sir Giles takes it to translate the hieroglyphs on it, but a shadowy figure knocks John unconscious and steals the medallion. Meanwhile, King attempts to unveil the mummy before a large audience, but when he opens the sarcophagus, the mummy is gone. That night, the mummy strangles him in a dark alley and throws his body into the river. Sir Giles continues to study ancient inscriptions and discovers references to the sacred words of life when the mummy breaks into his home and beats him to death with a heavy object. Bray and the police now suspect the killings are connected to the mummy. Annette is at Adam's house when the mummy breaks in and attacks him. Annette screams, and the creature strangely hesitates and leaves without harming her. Adam reveals that he is Ra's brother, cursed to live forever after betraying his brother, and that he took the medallion because he wants Ra resurrected. so the ancient prince can end his cursed existence. He forces Annette to wear the medallion and speak incantations to awaken the mummy fully, but they are interrupted when Bray and the police arrive. Adam and the mummy carry Annette into the tunnels beneath the house and escape. He orders Ra to kill Annette, but it forces Adam underwater and kills him. With his brother now dead, Ra retrieves the medallion and caves in a tunnel, burying him beneath the rubble as the police arrive to save Annette.
Tonight is the second of the Hammer Mummy franchise. It is The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, 1964. It's interesting in many ways. I think the most interesting way it is because the man at the top did all three jobs. It is produced by Michael Carreras. It is directed by Michael Carreras. It is also written by Michael Carreras, but Michael Carreras wrote it under the pen name Henry Younger, which was actually his way of kind of joking with Hines, who was always writing under John Elder. Well, that's one of the things, too, that about this time, Carreras was actually supposed to be like the executive producer, and that's what Daddy, James Carreras, who was more controlling the studio at this point in time, was trying to get him to do, and he got mad, quit, and stepped down because he wanted to be able to direct and write. This is what he did, and I'm not going to lie, I think the writing on this thing... Well, no, Daddy expected him to be the executive producer on all the films, so he was supposed to be the one overseeing everything, while Daddy was handling the money part of it, and all the contracts. And he kind of got tired of it. And apparently that was one of the things that helped bring the studio down, because he finally comes back, just as Daddy, well, that place is saved for later when we do the history of Hammer. Because what really, really, really brought Hammer down, Daddy talked Michael into coming back to be the executive producer, then said, why don't you just be the executive, period. Michael said that's a good idea. This was like 71, 72. This is one of the reasons probably why Frankenstein and The Creature for Help took so long to get released, because Michael came back to take over everything, then found out Daddy's trying to sell the studio behind his back.
Bastard.
Yeah, it was. Then Michael says, well, why don't you going to sell it? Why don't you sell it to me? And Dad says, well, you know, your money's as good as anybody's. Sells it to him. Then he finds out the minute he signs his name on the contract that EMI, their partner in the later days, said, our contract wasn't with Hammer, it was with James Carreras. And since he's no longer part of it, wouldn't we cut off that out now? Now, he was a Spanish immigrant, though. But the funny thing is, James got knighted. But the whole point is, that's what really brought it down. The writing on this was weak. Michael Carreras, I said, wrote, directed, produced. There's not really a whole lot to be said about this. It wasn't a rush thing. It's just that every year they wanted to produce a gothic horror, and this was just the next one in line. There's really not a whole lot out there about it, because there's very few of the big known names involved with this one, besides Michael Carreras. Bernard Robinson...
Which actually winds up being true for the remaining two Mummy movies as well. They seem to get like short shrift, and they don't really seem to be taking that seriously. They make the movies. Other than Valerie Leon being incredibly beautiful, there's not much that I remember about any of them.
None of these people are recurring people in Hammer. I mean, the small characters are like Ripper has got that small comic part to him, and I'm not gonna lie, the clips I took, I had to show Ripper and I had to show the monkey.
95% of our DNA, right? Yeah,
something like that. But the thing is,
whatever that means.
But I forgot to really look at Giles, because, they didn't really show Jack Giles in IMDb is farther down the way, which is kind of sad, because he was in a lot of big-name films. Because really, as far as resume is concerned, the guy playing Giles has got the biggest resume, because he's done some big films. Here it is, 1964. As one critic put it, it's just a routine horror film. Nothing really about it stands out. The sad thing is, it probably could have been better. You do have some nice touches, because a lot of the Egyptian stuff looks pretty good. Except for that wall panel, which I never showed, because Bernard Robinson was involved with making that. They used a lot of the same props from the first Mummy film, and like I said, Michael Carreras did this.
And here's the thing also, and worth mentioning, I guess, before we go too much farther, is this. The slide in quality has already begun as far as the Mummy movies go. If you look at the first Mummy thing with the Dream Team, they had everybody in there.
Right.
They had Peter Cushing, they had Christopher Lee, they had Ernst Fisher, They had Jimmy Sangster, the Dream Team. They were all in place. Great. It was a beautiful looking movie.
Right.
The story seemed a little thin to me, but it was still a great film, and there was a lot to it. This, not so much.
It isn't. And the thing is that Jack Asher also was part of that Dream Team because he was the cinematographer. They said that he could do a lot with movies. He's not involved. The only member of the Dream Team on this film is Bernard Robinson. Because I think Michael Carruthers wrote the script, and I'll tell you what, in my honest opinion is, I think that Michael Carruthers was the weakest, the script was the weakest part of the film, because there's so many gaps in the story that you just assume, oh, okay, yeah, that had to happen that way. We'll go in line. I'm going to show the first thing, just the beginning. Okay, like I said, this is the beginning of the film, just to show you how evil it is, and how slocky they were willing to go.
I'm with you. They could have sprung for this guy to have a wig or something, huh?
Yeah.
You do make a point out of showing the faces of all these guys being very satisfied with him being tortured and killed. A little dignity.
Annette, my dear. We'll strike camp tomorrow. We're returning to Cairo.
What's that, Sir Charles?
Your work's not finished here yet. For the safety of the treasures and ourselves, we'll...
A badass or just an arrogant jerk?
It seems that your tactics have worked after all, Ashby. Now we fold our tents and run away.
So I guess evil did come out of it. that was only one of the few nice touches in the writing.
The fishes.
Yeah, kind of. And I want to bring up
there was some kind of message there.
So all four of those people, the girl, we need to talk about those people. The guy acting tough, and that's something, by the way, I did have trouble with this film, is the act like this guy's so arrogant and so British, and yet...
You're talking about Ronald Howard.
Yeah, which, by the way, that guy, that man, Ronald Howard, is actually the son of Leslie Howard.
I saw that. For those of us who are old enough to remember Leslie Howard.
Leslie Howard was a big actor until he got shot down in World War II, which some people think is because the Germans thought he was spying when he was crossing the channel.
Was he in Petrified Forest?
American viewers would know him mostly from Gone with the Wind. He actually ended up retiring from acting, too, when he realized he was only going to be doing B films. Egyptian is played by George Pascal, who was in the last Mummy film playing an Egyptian. Mm-hmm. He was a guy I mentioned. He's actually Greek. He was born in Cyprus, but every time they need it in films, a Mediterranean...
He just has the look. Wikipedia lists him as a worshipful supplicant, so he's kissing the mummy's butt.
But he's a supplicant only because he sees the mummy, actually sees it, and then he drops to his knees. The guy acting like such a hard ass already covered. The other playing gals. Hammer films, I could see here, but he was in a lot of big films. Jason the Argonauts, Lawrence of Arabia, Clash of the Titans, Patton. He did a lot of big films. Died a working actor at the age of 91. And the woman, of course, is Jean Rowland. They said introducing on this thing, but this was not her first acting. It was like her second or third. She did do 2 Bond films, if you consider that 68 Casino Royale a Bond film, which I guess technically it is. She also played in You Only Live Twice. So now we can go on to the next scene I had to show, because we had to introduce one more character. Sitting there, no lines, that is Michael Ripper. You always have to see him. He was in 26 Hammer films. We've mentioned him before. I think every single Hammer film we've talked about so far. Because in the last Mummy film, he's the poacher who sees the mummy, and everybody thinks he's crazy. And here he doesn't even have a line. He says a crazy Arab. And now Mr. I'm so upright and uptight with the Egyptian is now kissing the American's butt.
If you'd only learn to play chess.
Now, there. I had to show the monkey.
We could make a fortune.
And this is Fred Clark. He's the American in here. And in the 60s, he was everywhere playing the same kind of character.
This is a pleasant surprise.
Giles, baby, good to see you. Hashmi? Oh, here, hold it.
And he throws it off on the Egyptian like, you're nothing. That led to nothing except showing how people he could be, because he is a salesman.
There's a good lad.
And then what happened in that rest of that scene is he tells Giles, I'm not letting the Egyptian government have it. I paid for this. I'm taking it for a trip around the world and make money off it. Then he steps outside to tell...
Hello there. Still having fun, I see.
It is Ripper.
Good to see you again.
Glad to hear you say that. We're going to be seeing a lot of each other from now on.
What do you mean? The job's nearly finished.
Been a slight change in plans. We're all going on to London.
This kind of reminds me of a scene from She.
An urgent message from your master. He says you must come quickly.
Bring a message from who?
From Sir Gilly. Gilly.
Sir Giles.
Then we must go. It must be important.
Well, now, wait a minute. I'm going with you.
Oh, nothing as far as we can see.
Inspector, sir.
Yes?
I have found something over there.
كل حاجات ما موجودة.
And Michael Ripper's...
He's in it badly for Ahmed.
So that was it for Michael Ripper. I showed that scene, though, too, because it shows you he's really not a bad guy, Tim. When I look at Fred Clark's character in here, knowing that Michael Carreras wrote it, I'm thinking about some of his experience he probably had in America when he was trying to sell some of the films back in the late 50s, and his view of Americans, where it's not bad or good, that the only good or bad is how much money you can make off it. But he's actually a nice guy. I mean, he got off in the Belly Dancer, that's true, but though, he gave her money, and he was willing to say, look, he's willing to give people their cut as well. He's not going to try to screw them out of it, because who actually screws anybody out of money there? He threw a lot of money down on the table when he was walking out to pay for the meal. Didn't even look to see how it was. He just threw a bunch of bills out there.
I do not think that he had an admirable view of Americans. I don't think his character was particularly admirable. Are you going to show the scene before they kill him?
Yes.
Okay, I think they felt they had to do that in order to make him a sympathetic character.
See, I don't think he was so unsympathetic. I just think he was morally neutral because he wasn't out to really screw anybody. He just was out to make...
he was morally neutral. He was a raving capitalist.
Evil if you're a capitalist, Tim? He wasn't actually trying to screw...
Not to me, but to me, the way that they drew this, he was very exploitative. Anything that he touched, he was trying to exploit.
That's true. However, he doesn't try to steal...
But my point is, everything that he does is about making money. He looks like what you'd think of Americans as being nothing but somebody that's all about exploiting something for money. That's exactly what his character was.
Which, by the way, I gotta say something funny on that scene. The English spent 300 years grabbing everything from the world and taking it back to London. And yet, he's trying to make it the American crime in here.
We let them keep the Sphinx and the pyramids. What else do they want?
They put it on a ship. They decide to come back to England to show the premiere. And Giles gets attacked. And I found that funny. I wish I'd shown that, but you can't show everything. He screams out, and that causes Bray to go in and check on him. But I'm thinking, he screams out in one of the rich passenger cabins, and nobody else went in to check on him? Bray gets attacked, the guy comes running out, starts attacking the girl, and another man steps in. Beecham, although the funny thing is, if you see his name...
Isn't it convenient that he just happened to be there?
Absolutely, and he throws a guy overboard. Which I find interesting that he say his name is Beecham, even though it's spelled in IMDb as Beauchamp. But neither here nor there. And of course, right off the bat, he starts scamming on Annette, who's more than happy that she's found herself a real man. But she's Parisian, so what can you say? He says, well, when you guys back, why don't you just stay at my manor? It'll be easier and cheaper for you guys, and we're so close to where you're showing this. And of course, she's like, oh, we can do this, can't we? And they decide to do it. And this is where she starts scamming her more. They decide they're going to see the show. He's going to show a preview of the show if they want to come. And as they're digging through the stuff here and what they're going to show, this is where she gives the legend.
So successful was he that the aging Ramesses, in an effort to avoid civil war, was forced to accept the will of the people and to banish his favorite son. The faithful followers were befriended by an ancient nomadic people deep in a remote part of the Sahara, that they asked him to become their king and rule over them. At his coronation, they presented him with a small medallion on which had been inscribed the sacred words of life.
Not exactly a small medallion, is it?
Only in the rare ceremony of reviving the dead.
And we cut out because there's a whole lot of how they loved him and how the brother found out.
But B, hearing of his brother's plans, sent assassins into the desert to find and kill Ra. They attacked without warning, and showing no mercy, killed nomads and priests alike.
Now, that guy, who's also the one who plays the mummy, is a guy called Dickie Owens. He was also in Zulu. He'll show up in The Mummy Shroud later on, another Hammer mummy film. Although, for some reason, he just stopped acting in 1966. But you see, you hear the story about that, and that's the legend of the mummy. Now, that sets up we know who the mummy is, and we know about the Medallion of Life, but they don't know what happened to the Medallion of Life. Oh, so they go back after this show, and what does she just happen to find in her purse? The Medallion of Life. Oh, my dad gave this to me back in Egypt. I'm sorry. That was bad writing. Right off the bat, and something else I had trouble with in this, is that they start trying to decipher it, and Beecham, the guy who saved them, who I haven't shown yet, but I'll show him later on, starts arguing with Bray over the age of the medallion. So he goes, well, I'll go to Giles because he'll have books and we'll figure it out from there. So he's going to Giles, a shadow, not a mummy, and he smacks him in the head, of course, knocks him out, and takes the medallion. So now he's convalescing from this blow to the head, and they go there to see the show. I didn't show all of that thing because that's also something about this movie. Their scenes are really, really long. And this is the...
Yes, and this is the anticlimactic moment.
No, actually, this is the premiere of it. This is what he's practicing what he's going to do.
Yes.
God, Fred, what's happening? They're opening that coffin.
I'm going to stop for a second. That guy is Fred. Fred, you might recognize Michael Harold Goodwin. He was also the drunk carriage driver in the last Mummy film, Who Loses the Box.
Well, we can do it without you. Without me, too.
Now they're all in trouble. Because they were present.
Beecham's actually a character too, because the guy didn't really do a lot. He did like 45 credits in IMDb. Terrence Morgan, basically became more of a businessman later on and just sort of slowing down, did films whenever he wanted to. But I showed this next clip because I think this goes to the heart of Fred Clark's character, Alexander King's character, because Egyptian is trying to haggle with him to get it back to Egypt, and he's explaining to him why it's not going to happen.
Because there's plenty of exploiting to do.
That's more chicken feed. My show is advertised clear across the excited states. Now, you don't want me to disappoint
Excited states, you hear that?
Middle Western people, do you?
The excited, he'll say United, he says the excited states.
That's more chicken feed. My show is advertised clear across the excited states. Now, you don't want me to disappoint all those Middle Western people, do you? You know what a circus means to them? It's an outing for the whole family. Day to remember.
It's obvious to me that you are a very difficult man to deal with.
Who, me?
I thought that was interesting because I think that really gives us really what his character is about.
My point exactly. He's all about making a profit, and he's always about
He's
exploiting.
not really making money. He's more about he actually likes to excite people. He honestly thinks he's on a noble cause. I mean, he's not exactly a sympathetic character.
I guess we're gonna have to. I know what he's saying, but I also know what he's doing.
I know what he's doing, but the thing is that the British did this and did this a lot worse than any other country on the face of the earth.
He's not all right. I'm just saying he's not really a sympathetic character until this final act.
Well, see, the thing, I see that philosophy. He actually likes to make like the woman. He could have just grabbed her. He could have just lied to her, but he says we can make amends. He's still going to give her her cut, and he gave her a lot of money in that bar back in Egypt. Now, this is the actual show, the official show, and the anticlimax.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the very first time, and before your very eyes, I will cut the royal seal.
Beecham is very interested. Now, I want to point out that Beecham, this is after the pendant was stolen, and Beecham was very, very much into, do you guys know where it's at? Do you guys know where it's at? And then it gets stolen. That's when, for some strange reason, although he's laying in bed and got knocked out cold 2 or 3 days before this, all of a sudden he wakes up knowing that somebody's trying to use that pendant to raise the mummy. Okay. Alexander King sends him home and says, you don't believe me? I just got too many other things to think about right now. And he's walking home. And this is a good scene.
You in a hurry, Gav?
What can I do for you?
Nothing, dearie. I wondered if there was anything I could do for you.
Thanks. But no thanks. Wait a minute. Get a good night's sleep.
God bless you, sir. You're a real gentleman.
This last act, he seems like he's a decent guy.
Yeah, see, and I think that was intentional because I don't think he's really an evil character. He's just a stereotype.
Still, all right, but what I'm telling you is, they put that in there to make him more sympathetic. That's exactly why they did it.
Well, yeah, because he's really not. The business of America is business, but in the end, they're just good people. They just have their priorities kind of screwed up. That's what I think was his own view. So here again is that somehow Bray Howard figures out that the mummy's there. He ends up going to the Egyptian apartment and is caught rummaging through it by the Egyptian because you think he's the bad guy, George Pastel. Pastel says, I'm not, but I want that mummy back where it's safe. They agree to work together at least long enough to find the mummy and everything that's been stolen. And and for some reason, after they go to the police, Garl gets killed. The maid sees that it's a mummy, so of course the police believe it. So what's the first thing you do? Who knows? But for some reason, they decide the first thing they're going to do is break into Beecham's house because, yeah, sure, there's a connection there. And get there just in time to see him on the floor because the mummy hit him. But this is after he and Annette decide that they're going to run away. And she leaves a note. And they make a big deal of showing the note. But they never use that note anyplace else in the rest of the film. It has nothing to do with anything. It's just there. And for some reason, they don't think to themselves, if the mummy's trying to kill everybody, then why didn't he kill him? Well, who cares? They don't explain why they thought they went there. They don't explain why they don't think he's involved. And they don't explain why these two decided to sit here and talk. Although, after the fact, you finish, I guess it was a set up, a trap by the cops, but... cheap props.
No! Ora Antef, thou mighty prince of Egypt.
If I think this is funny, am I a bad person?
Ahead. May the memory of my ancestors be erased forever, and the memory of my unworthy self. And my soul will pay penance through all eternity.
What's funny is these guys they're just all right with it. Oh, he asked for it. Well, here's the thing. Look at how slow he's walking. How hard would it have been to follow him?
And yet, you see...
See where he goes, but keep a distance.
Okay. Now, I gotta say something else, too. He sees where he goes, but they keep a distance. Nobody trying to throw a gun. Nobody tries to shoot him. Nobody does anything else. This guy has already killed at least 2 people that they know of, attacked another one, and after he breaks out of the net, like, nobody starts firing him. How come they weren't firing at him? How come they weren't seeing what they could do to destroy him?
Okay, I did tell you this was one of the weaker ones.
What happens is they follow him back, and surprise, surprise, he goes to Beecham's house. They all decide they're going to follow. What was going on in the meantime is Beecham takes Annette down to his basement to show all of his Egyptian thrones and artifacts, and that's when he admits that he's got the pendant, surprise, surprise, and that he is the brother who, over 3,000 years ago, killed the prince. And
she thought he was going to go down there to seal a deal with her, but it's a different deal, and it's a different kind of seal.
And that's where he shows her the mummy and says that I can't die. My dad cursed me to live forever unless I can get killed by my brother. And of course, since he was dead and forgotten, how could that happen? But now that you guys have brought him to me, and says the words of life, has her say it. So he comes in and he says she's the last desecrator killer. And she's like, what? He's like, no, because he wants her to follow him into the afterlife. He doesn't want to do it because, hey, everybody stops for a pretty face, right? He hears the cops. They grab her. They run down the sewers. He tells her now, we're safe, kill her. He won't do it. Beecham tries to kill the girl. He stops him. Ends up finally killing Beecham after 3,000 years. And then does this. And I'm sorry, this was a weak end because it was done badly. I understand what he was trying to do. It was just done so badly.
Mummy in the sewer. Who'd have thought? Then again, it is Paris.
Well, they're in London now.
Are they in London? Okay, you're right. They are in London.
But still.
I mean, the fact that he pulled that thing out and the gets buried by the rubble.
Yeah, this is the guy. He doesn't know what modern sewers are, but somehow he knows.
You're saying this was this suicide? I thought he just accidentally.
Yes, I don't know. It's done so badly, you don't know. Was it intentional or was it unintentional? You don't know.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rest. It was done badly. They were starting to move to Elstree. That's something else that ends up changing Hammer. They went from their old studio to this one, which in the long run cost them a lot of money because it's larger. They have to rebuild sets. So in the end, they probably should have just stuck small. Actually, that's one of the things Michael Carrera said also helped bring about the end of Hammer, because he says once we moved, all of a sudden everybody says, hey, we should be flush because, now we're successful. We're making films that are internationally recognized. So they had to get a larger studio. People were expecting more pay, and yet they were still making the same kind of chop films in the long run. So overall, it is probably the weakest. It's certainly not the first one because it lacked a certain pop to it. I know it's because they changed studios. That part of it, you don't have the same film cameraman. Michael Carreras, I appreciate him.
In the first movie, I would say this. Is it a terrible movie? No, not really. Is it something that if you're a true Hammer horror fan, it's a must-see no matter what, because it's part of the Hammer history. But as far as the Mummy series goes, I think the entire Mummy series was probably the weakest thing that Hammer ever did. As bad as this is not the worst of the four movies. The Curse of the Mummy Shroud, still worth watching simply because it's a Hammer film.
And that I get. You have to if you want to appreciate Hammer. If you want to get through this thing. Eric,
there's still some entertainment value to it.
There is, but the entertainment value to this is only two things. One, you got to because it's Hammer, and two, people like you and me and I watch any horror film that comes down the pike, and I've watched some things
Nerds.
And I've watched things I shouldn't be proud of because I'm not gonna lie. You all know it. I collect films that are horrifying just so I can say to people, you think that's a bad film? Why don't you come see this one? So they can tell me how sick I am that I watched that film and recommended it.
I watched a lot of bad movies myself.
Yeah, there's no bar too low for me. I will say that right here.